Hey, Michael, would you please tell me what do you do and what drives you in this pursuit of what you're doing?
Well, hello, Olga. And that's a really good question. I wonder sometimes too, what do I do? So I am a paranormal investigator. I am also a paranormal podcaster with 3 shows currently. And I am also a Reiki master. And what I do on my shows is for the energy that surrounds us. That is a show about the paranormal world and the unexplained, meaning it could cover UFOs and cover stargates, cover cryptids, cover portals, interdimensional beings. So if I come across it and I can't explain it, I try to bring it to the show. And another aspect of that too is I had you and Chelsea on, and Chelsea with her dream interpretation, and you with your shamanism. That's something that how you do it and everything to me was unexplained. So that's why I brought it to the show. And everything around us is energy. And so I feel like the show title really fits for that goal of bringing awareness to other people and aspects of the paranormal that normally would not be considered paranormal. And Paranormal Versus is a paranormal podcast show where I talk with Kel Ridley and Matt Atkinson, and we discuss things in the paranormal field that interest us. We've talked about equipment, we've talked about locations, genealogy, we've talked about paranormal investigating, and we also have talked about UFOs. And one of the interesting facets that to that show is I am representing the US and Kel and Matt are representing the UK. So that's why we call it Paranormal Versus. Is the goal is to try and compare how the UK does it versus the US and what's similar, what's different. And my third show is more of a series. It's called Tetsu Riding Through the Unknown. And what it is an esoteric journey into hidden history and aspects of our world and what's going on that we've been lied to about or have not been given the full truth about. And so I bring guests on to help bring awareness to topics, and some of the topics I've covered so far is Antarctica, what's going on down there, um, the secret space program. I've had guests on for that. The My Labs, which is military labs doing experiments that they don't share with others. Tartaria and UFO light ships. And so it's become a journey of my discovery and involvement in some of those programs as well that I was not aware of. And so it's a fun journey into the unknown that should be known and a journey of self discovery at the same time. So I like to do everything in full transparency on my shows. So you'll hear me at times when I about to bring up on any of my shows a topic that I may have mentioned or had talked to somebody about before the show. I'll make the comment in full transparency because I like everyone to know that I'm not hiding anything on the shows.
That's really exciting, and it's really it's fascinating, and it's really wide. Like topic wise, it's really wide. And it's interesting how you mentioned that you actually do you get self-discovery through all this, which I can really connect to, and being transparent. I really love this. I'm really grateful for having met you and building a community with you and working with you and having conversations and discovering things together with you and sharing what we find. Thank you so much, Michael.
Yes, and that's the fun of the videos is I learn new techniques, new questions, new thoughts, and it's a learning. And I always liked the saying when I was growing up that the day you stop learning is the day you die. So I try to learn something every day.
Yeah. Yeah, or I heard that and I'm having a crazy deja vu experience right now with you. Like this already happened. Yeah, and I heard that the moment we lose desire in seeking new experiences, which is learning, we don't live anymore. So like we seize the desire to live, and then we just don't need to experience this physical life anymore. I totally resonate with that.
Right. And one of the fun things about being in the paranormal is we can get away with a lot of things doing, that people would maybe think we're crazy. Like, for example, wearing a pirate hat. And the fun thing about that is I am a part of a team that we call each other the Ghost Ship Hunters. And we're on Facebook and we get together when we can and investigate. But our theme of being the Ghost Ship Hunters is pirates. And so we unfortunately had to have people walk a plank, which means you get kicked out of the group. But we have fun with it, and we bring about mutual respect and that we bring new ideas and new thoughts and have fun with it. And our goal is to take some of the fear out of the paranormal unknowns, whereas at the same time having fun with it so that more people are more relaxed with it.
Yeah, I say we live in a different age, and these kinds of things now are seen in a different light with different eyes and different ears, which feels more and more exciting every day that we can actually do this. But you can do your what you do, and I can do what I do openly. And the world is changing as we change ourselves in it too, which is really cool. Noticing
it is.
too.
One of the benefits of paranormal investigating that I find is because of my Reiki training and my experience with other modalities is I could go into locations and I don't have the fear of what's going to happen. If I get a feeling of something is off or I shouldn't be here, I respect that, back off, leave if it's strong enough. If it's a little, I may sit there and say, and ask, do you not want me here? Why? And ask questions of it. But for the most part, yeah, because I've worked with energy that I can sense and pick up if there's a bad spirit there or a negative entity there or something worse. And so then I can trust myself and those around me trust me as much to say, if I say we need to walk out, we're walking out. We're not going to argue and feed whatever's there. We respect each other and we respect that everyone has different ways of doing the same techniques, because I love the fact in the paranormal there are no experts. So everybody is on equal footing, no matter if you've done it for 30 years or you've done it for one day. Everybody's equal. And the other aspect is I love the fact that, like, you and I could be on an investigation, walk into a room, and you can say, hey, did you hear this voice? And I can honestly say, yes, I heard it, or no, I didn't. And even though I may not have heard it, doesn't mean it didn't happen. And so that's the beauty of how I paranormal investigate is everyone experiences different things, and respecting that, so that some people are really good at catching spirits on camera, on a picture with digital. Some are really good at capturing shadows. Some are really good at capturing orbs. And yes, I know orbs is a hot topic of whether they are real or not. And I believe some are misidentified, but some are what they are, spirits showing themselves. And everyone is free to their own opinion. No, and my friends that I investigate with or deal in the paranormal with, we had that respect of, like, I may believe something's an orb and they don't, and we don't sit there and say to each other, "Oh, you're wrong. This is not. You can't seriously believe that." We respect each other and say, in my opinion, it's not, but if it is to you, great. And that's a respect that I think is more needed in the paranormal community, and that's why I try to bring about para-unity is what we call it, and it's just building a community in the paranormal field for people to respect each other, build each other up, and empower each other.
Yeah, that seems like a really cool community to be around. And I can see a lot of parallels to or what I do as well, and what we do as a community of seekers and investigators in a spiritual sense.
Yes, and I was fortunate to be brought up in the metaphysics. My parents and family growing up, we never forced any of us to do anything like religious wise or um I mean we would be asked to try something, and if it just wasn't for us, we just were like, okay, well, maybe something else will work. And one of the funny stories is, so my father was raised Catholic and my mother was raised Lutheran. So by that, it was a choice of what we would do. And when it came time for church, when I was really little, we would go to the church, and I would be, around, say, 6 years old, sitting in the church. And you know how 6-year-olds are, it's hard to sit still. Well, when the priest or the head honcho, I think some faiths call him reverend, some call him priest, but when he would get up to give the sermon, I would fall asleep. And the second he was done with his sermon, I'd be wide awake again. And we always would laugh about that and going, well, we can't explain it. I would just be singing the songs if there were songs. I'd be listening to the people talk, but when the dogma came, I would be asleep. And years later, we were talking with spirit guides, and I started laughing because they go, "You have a question for us?" And I was like, "No, not really." And they go, "No, you do." And I laughed and I said, "Well, all right. How come I never could stay awake for the priest when in church when I was little before we left?" And they said, "Because we didn't want you to be ingrained with the dogma." And so my spirit guides were keeping me from learning the dogma of the church. And I always thought that was funny that I was, quote, protected from being full of controlling ideas.
That's really, really perfect. I mean, that's one of the examples how our spirit guides work with us, and we may not understand what they're doing or what
Why?
for,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's a reason. And the beautiful thing is we can ask, and they will answer. So yeah, I'm glad you didn't listen to it, because now you can. your your mind is free.
And the funny thing about it is, like, I've had ex-girlfriends that are deep in the church, and I would go to services with them, and my guides would allow me to stay awake for the dogma part. And in listening to it, I would leave the service and they'd always ask me what did I think? And I was like, honestly, I don't understand the iconography because that supposedly goes against what, the church is supposed to be about. There's not supposed to be any icons, but they're all over. And the sermon was great and everything. Like, the ideas of what he was saying were great, but the way he was presenting it, I was like, that is utter nonsense. And there's no reason to ever put yourself lower than who you are. And I realized that's why they allowed me to listen now, is because my core beliefs have been established, and I can listen to things and be like, okay, I respect your stance and your opinion and where you're at. It's not for me, and I don't take it on, and I can walk away and be free of it and not have to sit there and go, oh boy, now I listened to all of this and now I got to unlearn this or that.
Yeah, there is a time sensitive age we have where we really do consume things like a sponge, in a way. So that was a very sensitive time for you. Yeah, and it's beautiful how you can listen now to anything. You can connect to yourself and check in whether that's true to you or not.
Right, because the beauty of it is, like, even with your shamanism is and everything, is there may be aspects of it that challenge what I believe. And I'm at a spot in my life where I'm like, I can either sit down and challenge my beliefs and say, is what she's presenting more accurate for me than what I believe? Or if it's a concept where I'm like, the way I process it makes more sense for me, that I can say, I'm glad you do it that way and that works for you. I'm going to stick with the way I do it. And it's what the beauty of it is, what I'm trying to get across is we're each planting seeds in each other, and whether we let it grow or not is up to us. And we decide what aspects we want to bring in. We don't have to bring it all in. We can pick and choose what we learn and decide to make our beliefs about. And that's the true beauty of, I believe, is our free will, is we get to choose what we believe, what we hear and want to take in and allow to plant itself in our essence. And that we don't have to worry about, because it's not there. It's not attached to us. There's no, oh man, this is because that person said that. Everything is totally up to us.
Yeah. And if it feeds back, it's like I like how you say planting seeds. And then it's like that's the way we create our experiences. We're feeding into something internal that then creates our experiences. Like say, oh, I resonate with this experience. I'm going to put it in, I'm going to plant it, and then I will experience it. And then we're always free to take another seed, right, and plant it and see how that feels and experience it.
And that's kind of how I view my shows when I do them, is the topics are topics that resonate with me and that I feel people don't pay attention to a lot. And so, like, for example, your episode and Chelsea's episode, it may be a month down the road, 6 months down the road, a year down the road, somebody will be like, hey, I just heard about, shamanism or dreams, interpreting dreams, and I'm starting to have dreams I really want to learn about. And we'll go and search, and the episodes will pop up, hopefully, is the idea. And somebody watches it and is like, oh my gosh, this person is talking about exactly what I'm looking for. And we'll reach out to that person or reach out to me, and I'll put them in touch with the person. But that's what I mean by planting the seed of the episode, is a lot of podcasters and everything will hit topics that are trending at the time, so they build up views and subscribers right now so they can reach their goals faster. My goal is to create shows and everything that may not necessarily be trending and garner a lot of views right now, but in the future will garner more views. And it's a topic that people can come back to later on, even if they watched the episode when it first aired. Maybe 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, they're like, I'm having this experience. I remember watching a show about that. Let me see if I can find it again, find the episode, and reach out to the person. That is my ultimate goal, because I can always do shows, and say, for example, bring on a cat, because cats seem to be extremely popular and hit 1,000 subscribers because I have a cat around. but that doesn't really feed any real deep interest or, desire of, why would I watch this again, say 2 days from now? It's like, I'm one of those people. I'm like, yeah, I seen the cat. That's great. And when I see it again from somebody else, I'm like, yeah, I already watched that, and go on. I don't pay it any heed. But if it's an episode like I feel like I do, and it's a topic, I may, if I see it again in 2 days, go, hey, I watched an episode someone did about this. Watch it and go, let me see how this compares to what this one was like, and pick and choose who they want to follow. But it's a video you'll want to rewatch, because I find when you watch it the first time, you do get a lot of information, but when you watch it a second or third time, you'll hear things that you missed the first time.
Yeah. Um, it often is like this with energy, because you are different, and what you perceive is different, because at every moment you have different internal questions, internal desires, internal curiosities, and you are different from what you were 10 minutes ago or what you were a week ago. And what you hear is completely different experience, because you've planted those different seeds in yourself, like you said. And I really like how you mentioned having different people on your shows across fields, like with shamanism, dream analysis with Chelsea. And I feel like it is all really connected. When you mentioned that you go to a place and you're really open minded, and you're talking to some energy, some spirit there, and you're feeling into it. What does it want, right? What does it doesn't want? That just it just resonates with me with how I search, investigate the soul world within me, like different parts of me or another human being when they come, for whatever reason. And it's also the same. Like I come and talk to different parts of me, and like, hey, what's up? How are you doing? And maybe that part of me considers itself an evil being. And maybe that part of me, I have villainized it, and it looks like a dark monster. And then I can actually leave it alone as a sign of respect, and I can come back another day, or it's my choice what I do. But it's similar. It's like I love how you say there's like someone higher, someone lower. It's just respect and an open dialogue, which is also what we do. What I learned from my teachers in shamanism, an open dialogue. So that's some of the ways. We can discover ourselves through dialogue with the spirit, soul's energy within and without. So I say we are more connected than we may think we are.
Right. And one of the things, too, that I like to bring awareness to in the paranormal field, and something that I talk about a lot, is when investigating, we have a responsibility as investigators to be careful what we say and how we say it. And my favorite analogy is when I go into a location and I feel something dark, and I go, oh my God, there's a demon here. Well, that dark entity may not be a demon, but in society, what I like to point out is when we go up to somebody and say, boy, you're really dumb thinking that. 2 more people come up and go, boy, you're really dumb thinking that. Then 5 more, 10 more. What does that person start to think? Boy, I'm dumb thinking this. Well, it's the same thing to me in the spirit world. When a dark energy has 1 to 10 to more people coming in and investigating and say, boy, you're a demon, the spirit's going to eventually say, you want a demon? I'll give you a demon, and start acting like one. And it's all because we misidentified and everybody ran with it. And so I always like to say to investigators, when you're investigating, make sure if you call something out, you know without a shadow of a doubt that's what you're calling out and that you're right, because it affects everything from that moment on. And so that is one of my pet peeves, is when I go in and everyone's like, oh, and I'll feel like an angry spirit, and everyone's like, there's a demon around. I'm like, no, there isn't. It's just a mean person who was probably mean in their life and decided they're going to be mean in their afterlife. And so it's just a mean spirit. Doesn't make it a demon. And so I don't like when investigators call out stuff, and because I'm like, how do you know it's a demon? What proof do you have that you can say they did that? That's 100% demon activity done. Now, I'm not saying there are no demons in the world, because there are. I just am asking investigators to be clear and understanding of when they call something out, that it is what they call out.
And maybe ironically, when they define something as a something, for example, define the spirit as the mean man as a demon, they have just planted the seed in themselves that I'm talking to a demon. I'd like to experience this situation as if I'm talking to a demon. And so they are creating an experience for themselves, that this is a conversation with a demon. And that would attract also other people who would also experience the same kind of, they have similar seeds, so to speak. So we call it, oh, I resonate with that. Yeah, and that's how we create our experiences. But the really, really exciting part, I also agree, is just seeing what it is. Like, what is it? And it may change the way, the more you change yourself and your own perspectives, that thing, spirit, being, entity, experience changes. And
Right. And it's similar to what you do when you go back and look at situations. When we were talking on your episode of, you go back and you see what you thought was a really bad person really wasn't a bad person, and you see everything in a new light, and so it changes everything. And so that's the beauty of what we do, and why I like to keep the horizon open and and showing it, is everyone realizes their perceptions are more powerful than they realize, and it creates the environment around them. And so that's another reason why I like doing the shows, is because it helps raise awareness to new ideas, and hopefully people will hear them, and next time they go into a journey of self-discovery, or to a location somewhere, or to a client, that they will sit down and say, okay, as I'm listening to the story, what is my perception my filtering versus their perception, their filtering, and keep mine out to help them and focus on theirs.
Yeah. It's being able to perceive the whole situation, not only the mental kind of, or focusing on vocabulary, let's say, but actually focusing on, like your show is called, on the energy that surrounds us.
Right.
What's surrounding me? I choose it, right? What surrounds me, what surrounds you, and being able to see the whole thing, and then coloring your experience with that big perspective.